Hello, in this video I'm going to talk to you about the two space repetition testing software programs called Anki and HighSpeedLanguage, and I'm going to tell you about the differences between each program. Both of these tools are used to learn and retain information over the long term. They help you do this by having you review information following a certain schedule. So for example, if you're learning a foreign language and you're introduced to a new word, these programs will have you review it, say 5 times over the next year or 30 times over the next 3 years. So the main differences here with the scheduling is Anki here asks you to rate how well you recalled the content when it comes up for review. So if we look here on the left, this is some Thai here. So I press show answer. Now along the bottom it asks us to rate how well we remembered it. And depending on that, it will re-ask that question again. And these on top here you can see the times in which it will ask you again. So less than 1 minute, less than 10 minutes, and 4 days. So every time you review the information with Anki, it asks you to determine how well you remembered it and therefore when it will be reviewed. On the right here on the HighSpeedLanguage program, it's quite different in that across here you've got a priority, and you can set the priority for a specific card or exercise or piece of information. On the left is a higher priority, and on the as in you'll be asked more often, and on the right is a lower priority. Now you can create these priorities and you create a schedule for each priority. So if we look here, we've got 3, so that we'll say that's priority 1, 2 and 3. If we go to deck and edit priorities, we can see those priorities. So priority 1 reviews a total of 20 times, priority 2 12 times, and priority 3 5 times. Now if we click on this and click on edit, this will show us when we actually review it. So for this particular file, all of the exercises are set to priority 2, and with priority 2 it's reviewed according to this schedule here 12 times, and according to, say, after 1 day, 1.6 days, 2.7 days, 4.1 days, 12 days, 20 days, 32 days, and so forth. And basically with that review schedule it will slightly vary because the program attempts to even them out so you don't have all your reviews to do on 1 day. So when you do a review, you don't have to think about, as with Anki, you don't have to think about how well you remembered it, because in my personal opinion, the idea that you can rate how well you remembered something is kind of faulty, because often you'll think it was very easy to recall something, but then maybe a day later you've totally forgotten it. And the other problem I find with having to rate how well you recall something every time is, rather than focusing on the content, you're thinking about how well did you remember it. Rather than putting all your effort onto the content, you're thinking every single time, which you may be reviewing hundreds of times a day, you're thinking how well did you remember it. So with the scheduling and HighSpeedLanguage, you don't have to think about that. I mean, if something was particularly easy or particularly hard, you can adjust the priority here to the left or to the right if you want. But with the HighSpeedLanguage software, more of the focus is on creating good content which is easy to remember. And therefore, if content's easy to remember, you won't need to review it so often. And this is the problem with a lot of content when you're learning a language. The content is not good, so you're trying to force it in your memory. And to do that, you may need to review 30 times because the content is not really designed well to sort of go into your long-term memory. And what I mean by not designed well. For example, if you're learning just a whole list of single words, that would be very hard to remember. I'd say single words with no images, that would be very hard to remember. And if you're doing it with Anki, you would need to review many times, maybe 30 times for each word. Depends on you. But for me personally, learning single words can be very hard and definitely not a good way to review. So with any of these spaced repetition tools, really the most important thing is to have good content, because even if you do use content which is not so good and you can learn it, it becomes quite a chore, and you will spend a lot more time studying rather than if you're using good content. The other issue with the scheduling that's used in Anki, that you've never really got a finishing point. Maybe in the settings you can set that. Let's have a look in the settings for each deck. Oh no, that's for the in the settings for each deck. There's the deck settings, and you can slightly adjust how it works. And there's things called leeches, which is if you don't remember it well, if you keep forgetting something, it will categorize it differently. And for HighSpeedLanguage, there's none of that, because if you're having troubles remembering something and you go through the full schedule, just say you review it 10 times over 6 months or a year, then you'll forget about it. You won't learn it anymore. And the fact is, I would say if you've reviewed something a reasonable amount of times, let's say you're learning a language and you review the vocabulary 7 or 8, 9, 10, 12 times, and if after that many reviews you can't remember it, then there's something wrong with the content, and doing another 20 reviews may not yield any better results, and it will just waste your time. So this is something that you need to be careful about. You need to be careful when reviewing, is that the reviews are meaningful and useful, and they're not just wasting your time. So yeah, that's why there's a fixed number of reviews in the HighSpeedLanguage software, which you can create the schedule yourself. For example, you could create a schedule if you're learning some content to review after 1 day, 3 days, 6 days, 9 days, 20 days, 21 days, 30 days, and then finished. And I think this is important. At least for me, it's very important, because sometimes when I'm studying content, I want to learn it all very quickly. Even if I don't commit it to my long-term memory very deeply, I want to learn it, say, maybe in 40 days. And then after that 40 days, I'll totally forget that content and I'll start studying something else. But when I study that something else, that new content will often have the content that I've previously been learning. And that way, with the new content, I'm reviewing what I've already learned. So just getting enough into your memory over, say, a 40-day period is important for me. With other content, I like to review it maybe over 6 months. It really depends how familiar you are with the content, what your goals are, how quickly you have to learn, and your future study plans. So all of that is fully adjustable in the HighSpeedLanguage program, and not really so much in Anki. They've got their predetermined algorithm for how things should be reviewed, and you can slightly adjust that, but it works according to an algorithm, whereas HighSpeedLanguage program works according to a schedule which you set, and you can have multiple schedules. Maybe 3 schedules is probably enough. You can have a high priority if something seemed hard, and then normal, and then low. Low would be if you see some, say, vocabulary and you already know it pretty well and you just want to review it 2 or 3 times over the next month or so. That's what you can use the high priority number. Say you have priority 3, that would be over here. The other factor with the reviewing is that Anki assumes that you should review it after a certain period of time, say after 5 days, and then maybe after 15 days. And we need to understand what the aim of these reviews are. Some people will say that the theory should be that we should review it just before we're going to forget it. But I would say that that idea is not necessarily true, and it's often very good to review something which you know very well. So for example, a review schedule which may work well for some is, let's say you review after 3 days and then 4 days, and then maybe even on the 5th day, and then you could have a break of 5 days or 10 days and then review 3 days in a row. And that way you get 3 successive reviews over 3 days, and rather than waiting till you've almost forgot the information, you're reviewing it when it's still fresh in your head. And I think those reviews can have great value, rather than waiting till you're about to forget it. So again, that's with Anki, it's all sort of predetermined with an algorithm. They're trying to work out what's best for you. Whereas with the high-speed language program, you can create your own schedule. Whatever you want, you can create it. Whatever works for you, you can easily create that. So that's important differences between these tools. As far as I know, there's no other tools in which you can easily create a schedule like you can in the high-speed language software. Most of the programs try to come up with an algorithm which they think is best for you. And in my personal opinion, this does not really work, and is not a great way to learn. I mean, it's better than some other ways. So the other differences here with the high-speed language program, on the left here, you've got your notes, and that way, if you download pre-made content, that can have notes in there which can explain the content for you. So this is Thai content here, and here this is left hand. So for example, we see the notes here have explanations of this already. And if you're studying your own content, you can easily create these notes. For example, if we click on this word, which is hand, and let's say we go text to speech. Oh, that's probably not going to work because we're on the audio at the moment. I'm not sure if that's going to play, but it's come up here, text to speech, and there's a play button. So that will produce a synthesized pronunciation of this word, and we can just add that to our note here. If we click add to note, there we've got a note with the actual audio. We can look up this in different dictionaries. If we go get definition, translation, example sentences, images, and text to speech. So we'll click on that one. So here we go. We've got a translation, which is hand. So we can quickly add that to a note. And we've got the images for hand. We can add that to our notes here. I'll just close that lookup. This will search this website for definitions and example sentences. For some languages, it has a lot of content. For other languages, it doesn't. So let's have a look here. Now in our notes, we've got a picture of hand, and we've got the translation. And we can go further here. So all of this looking up the words, in Anki, you don't really have that. If you click on the word here, we've got nothing here. So what we would need to do is to look it up. We could copy it, go to our dictionary, paste it, look it up, and then I'm not sure if we can easily add any notes here. Say if we looked up a word and we've got a definition, it doesn't appear. I've used Anki for quite a while. Haven't used the most recent version that much, because I use this high-speed language software to learn now. But yeah, with the notes, there's no real easy note system in Anki to add these kind of notes. And there's no easy way to look up vocabulary, which is a very important thing. When you're learning a language, if you can get clear definitions, images, and as much information on a word as possible, that's very important. And that really helps your learning and makes your learning faster. So with the high-speed language software, we've tried to make that as easy as possible. You'll see here, if you click on a word, you have a lot of different options on how you can look it up. Now you have customizable options here. So these options here are ones that we've added ourselves. So these are Thai dictionaries. So if I click on this one, you'll see what will happen. It will actually open a website here, a dictionary website, and it will look up that word. So we're looking up the words in third-party dictionaries, and I'll just zoom in on that one here so we can see that word we looked up was left, and you can see this has many different definitions here to give us a lot of information with a word. So let's say we like this particular definition, we can click that and we can drag that into our notes, and that will create a note for it. So this is a big difference between the two programs. The HighSpeedLanguage software allows you to quickly get information on the vocabulary you're learning from many different sources, and from your own sources, your own dictionaries you can put in here to use. And that's a very important part of learning. Perhaps you can do it in Anki. I think there's different plugins you can get from Anki which can add features, but in the standard Anki software they don't have that. And what I should mention is Anki is designed to learn all different types of content, whether that be maths or science or medicine or things even in your own language. That's what Anki is designed for. Whereas HighSpeedLanguage, as is in the name, it's a tool designed mainly for languages and for helping you learn languages. And that's what the tools are created for, whereas Anki is more of a broad program to help you try to memorize any information. You can see obviously the interfaces are kind of different, and what we see here on the right is we've got two images here, so, and an exercise type. So this is another important difference is HighSpeedLanguage has many different exercise types. So this is select the picture for the audio. So you have the audio and that plays, and you click on the correct picture. So we'll click on that, and then it's going to go to the next exercise. Now with the HighSpeedLanguage software, there's about 30 inbuilt exercise types, many different exercises, which is, I'll see if I can show you in this video, but the video will go on for a bit long. But there's many different exercise types that can have images, text, and they can be interactive, or they can have you type, say type answers. There's a lot of different options, whereas Anki, it's not so easy to create these different exercise types. You can add media to your Anki file, so you could add an image and you can add a video and so forth, but they're not so interactive as with the HighSpeedLanguage software. You don't click on things, typing. But yeah, I think maybe with some add-ons with Anki, maybe you can do some of that. Now this is the other important difference, is the learning section, or sorry, the learning mode in HighSpeedLanguage. So you notice what we did a moment ago, we clicked on the answer. That was new, so that means at that point the exercise was new and it was the first time it showed up. Then we clicked on the answer, and now it's automatically gone into this learning mode. Now the learning mode is when you're introduced to new information, right after you're introduced to it, it will go into a learning mode where you can basically keep reviewing it as many times as you need quickly to get it into your short-term memory. And once you've grasped the content and you have a good understanding of it and you can recall it fairly well, then you'll click down here, take out of learning mode. And once you take out of learning mode, it will be reviewed according to that long-term schedule which we were talking about a moment ago. So this learning mode is a very important feature of the HighSpeedLanguage program, is that you can say, I want to learn say 10 new pieces of information. All those 10 new pieces of information will be introduced. Then they'll go, say, into you could say a bucket, and you just keep reviewing them until you're pretty confident with them. And then once you're confident with them, you take them out of that learning mode, and they'll be reviewed over that long-term time frame. With the learning mode, it's very customizable. We'll just have a quick look at some of the settings under deck options here. So with the learning mode, you can specify how many new pieces of information to give to you before the program goes into the learning mode and you start reviewing them. You can have it so you're introduced to a new piece of information, and then you press next, and then it will start reviewing the content in the learning mode before introducing you to another new piece of information. So that way you could get a new piece of information, and then you could review two, and another new one, and then you can review two, which might be one of the ones you've just been introduced to. So that way you can very slowly introduce yourself to new information while reviewing what you've just learned. So rather than, let's say you wanted to learn 100 pieces of information and you went through them and you were introduced to 100 pieces of information, one after the other. By the time you got to 20, you've probably forgotten the first one. So with the high-speed language learning mode, you could say be introduced to one, and then you press next, and then you review one, and then once you've reviewed it, then the second new piece of information will be introduced, and then you press next, and for example, those first two will be reviewed. And you can totally customize how the learning section works here, and how many are introduced to you, and when they're reviewed, and so forth. So it makes it that if you have hard content which is harder to learn, or has more new vocabulary which you're not familiar with, you can make it easier to learn because it will be more slowly introduced and you'll have more time to review it. So that's an important feature, another important feature there. See what else I've got noted down here. Both of the programs have inbuilt recording features, so you can record your voice and compare it to the speaker here. These buttons here in the high-speed language program that's text to speech. So if you click on that, you'll hear a synthesized version of this audio, and translate, that will translate it. I'll click on that one. So that's left hand, and that comes up left hand, and that's using these online services to translate, so it may not be perfect. And this is also a very important feature here, individual IWL. If we select it and click on it, we get lookup individual words. So that's individual word lookup. So if we click on that, we come up with these. It looks up both of these words. So we've got hand, left, hand, and then this word here is left. It says error not found because that looks up in a number of dictionaries, so it's only found the translation for these particular words. So that way, if you have 3 words, you can look them all up in one go rather than having to click each word and look them up, and you get an image for them. So that is a very useful function when you're learning new content and you have multiple new words that you need to learn. Now with the programs, Anki is a free tool and HighSpeed Language is also free. With Anki, you can create content and you can share it through their Anki website, and you'll find there is quite a lot of content in there. From me looking at it to learn various languages, the content is not very good. There may be 1 or 2 reasonable files which are okay, which can help you learn, but I would say are far from well optimized, and but they're free. Now with the high-speed language program, you can also create free content and share your free content, but you can also create content, share it, and then ask a certain amount of money for it. So you can be paid to create content. So if you, for example, if you're learning a language and you can't find any good content, you could go out there and create some content. You could get somebody to record the audios for you, find some interesting content, create it, and then you can share it to the website and you can ask whatever you want for it. So hopefully that will create better content, because with language learning, it's very important to have good content. Good, interesting content, well-explained content, and that can make learning much easier and much more interesting. So the fact that the high-speed language has an option to sell your own content, I think, is another important feature there. Another difference is this public comments here. So if you do create content or you do download shared content, the public comments is a section where you can ask other people questions, and when they see this particular exercise, they'll see your comments and they can reply to your comments. So that way, if you had a question about something, you could put a comment there, and when somebody replies, you'll get an email for it. So that's a helpful feature which you won't find in Anki. So I think that's the main differences here with the program. You'll see in HighSpeedLanguage, you've got Learn. When you click on that, you'll be given new information and you'll review it while you're being given it, depending on your learning settings. Review, that reviews what's due according to the schedule we were talking about. Overstudy allows you to study when nothing's due. So let's say you've done all your study for the day, you've completed your reviews which were due, but you had some extra time, you can use that overstudy there. These other buttons here, you can see there's a lot more buttons on the HighSpeedLanguage software, and that makes it easier for you to sort of access them. You can replay, rather than clicking down here and clicking there. That can be a hassle if you're doing it multiple times. All these buttons are very close together. These are the main buttons you'll use here over on the right side, are ones you won't use very often. But yeah, you've got the finish, and finish is this concept in Anki. I don't think there is finish, there's suspend, but finish you would click if something's so easy you don't need to review it, you would just click on finish. You could suspend it, but yeah, there's not too much difference when you suspend it. When you click on finish, it will show up as finished, and when you study something and it goes along the full review schedule, then it will be finished and it will go to your finished as well. There's a timer section in the HighSpeedLanguage program, so you can see up here there's a timer. So if I click on show answer, that I don't think there is on this file. On this file, there's the timers are set on here. No, they're not, but we could turn them on. So let's edit this particular exercise, and we'll say pause when reviewing. We'll unselect that one and we'll press save, and now you'll see what will happen here. We've got a timer here, and that will give you a certain amount of time to answer the question. That can be good just to sort of give you a bit more idea of how much time you're taking. So press show answer, then there's the clear timer. The times for those can be specified, and you can increase them and decrease them easily. So increase them and decrease them there. I guess another feature here is the play speed. If you adjust this will adjust the play speed of the audios for the exercises, so you can easily adjust that, and that will adjust them all. Oh no, sorry, that's for this particular, for this option here is for this particular exercise. So if we were to turn that to the left, it will play slower. So when you're learning a language, when you first introduce the content, it sounds like people are speaking very fast, so you can slow the speed and then increase it as time goes on. You can also do that for the whole file. If we go to edit deck, sorry, I went to go to deck options, under play speed and delays, we can change the overall delays and play speeds in here, audio speeds here. So you can do that to easily adjust. If you've got some content, it all seems too fast, you can just easily adjust it there. I think that's covered some of the main differences in the program. Let's just close this file. I'll just save that. I'll just close that. I think I edited. it's just saving. I think I reset all the cards, so that may take a moment to save those 2000. This rapid Thai vocabulary file is available from the website. It's got 2,600 exercises. It teaches, I think it's 3,500 words. It's got really a lot of interactive exercises. It's got thousands of images, and it's very good for helping you learn the basics of the Thai language. And that's content which is not free. That's content to purchase. It's just taking a moment, because when I first opened this up a moment ago, I selected all the cards and reset them so I could show you this from the beginning. So that's saved now, so I'll just close that. And these are some other files here. The program comes with sample decks, and a deck is like your group of exercises. Your content will go into a deck. So let's look under all question types.
Picture, name the related word.
You're not going to hear,
Apple.
I don't think you're going to hear the audio because of me recording. I think it's going through the it's not going through the speaker. It's going through the microphone. So yeah, you can see these exercise types. Name the related word. So you got a picture of an apple. You would say apple.
Select the pic for the
select
audio.
The picture for the audio. We saw one of them before. So click the picture for the audio. You don't need to click it. If we just click on show answer, that will show us which one's right.
Picture comprehension.
What animal is this?
What animal
so that's
is
a
this?
Picture comprehension
A penguin.
exercise.
Picture, name the common
Name
concept.
the common concept.
Giraffe.
That's the answer. And they're showing us the answer because it's showing it's new. So this is the first time we see it. So it gives you the answer. So
Look
we
at the picture.
know what the answer is. Look at the picture. There's a lot. You can download the program and you can look at the sample decks which come with it. I just wanted to make this video, and I wanted to make it shorter than this, but it's gone on for quite a while, to explain the differences between these spaced repetition tools. I will say for Anki, now one big benefit, well, fairly big benefit of Anki is that you can use it on multiple different devices, where HighSpeedLanguage now is only available for Windows, whereas Anki you can use on most devices. But an important thing to take into account is that with the HighSpeedLanguage, often you can, well, if you're learning a language, you really want audio, and you can easily copy that audio, say, to your mobile phone and review it. And that's how I learn my content. I use the HighSpeedLanguage software to learn and review, but I also copy all the audio to my phone. And when I'm out, I can listen to it all, and that also helps me to review what I've learned. So yeah, that's the difference, is the platform availability for these. Hopefully HighSpeedLanguage will be available for other platforms soon. I think that hopefully covers the main things. I'm sure I forgot a lot in this video, but you can download both of the programs for free, and you can use them both for free. And you can actually, the Anki website has a lot of, as I said, a lot of content in it that other people have created and uploaded. It's all free content, and as I said, most of it is not that great, but you may see some benefit in it. The good thing is you can download it in Anki and you can export it, and then you can import it into the HighSpeedLanguage program, and you can actually use it in the HighSpeedLanguage program. And that can be more helpful than Anki, because you've got all the tools we went through about looking up the content and so forth, finding more information about the words. So I'll end the video here. Thanks a lot for your time, and sorry the video went on for so long.